This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side flyer, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Janai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
Hello, this is the Queen City Killer, Clara Carter, and you're listening to Wrestling with Entertainment.
Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today, the trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J., and it's a great day for wrestling, because we are wrestling with the Queen City Killer, Clara Carter!
Hello.
How are you, Clara?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good. And can you tell us where the Queen City Killer is killing next, event-wise?
Event-wise, if this is in July, I'm not sure of my full July schedule, but I do know that I will be making my debut for Bell to Bell, which is the all-women's promotion that is associated with Monster Factory up in New Jersey, so that's very exciting. Got some other stuff in July too. I'll have to look at my calendar. I'm all over the place. But that's one that I'm super excited for. It's July the 20th.
Alright, July the 20th.
Mm-hmm.
And where can we find you on social media so we know where you're going to be?
On social media, I mainly post on Instagram. It is at Clara Wrestling, but it's Clara Wrestling on all social media. You'll just see me more on Instagram if I ever decide to post, because I post very rarely.
And as of this recording, you have 18 tweets on Twitter.
Oh, wow. They're probably all retweets.
I know there's a couple that are just you.
Oh, good. I don't think I've gotten on Twitter in a long time. I should probably get on Twitter. Do people still tweet? I don't know.
Well, it's X now, but I think you still call it tweeting. The last thing you tweeted was September 4th of 2023.
Makes sense.
And you don't have to go looking for it. All of the links to all. Where can we find merchandise?
Merchandise is mainly you have to come see me live to get my merch at my merch stand. But if you send me a message on social media and you want me to ship something, I'd be more than happy to.
Okay. And you don't have to go looking for it. All of the links to all her social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox. Alright, let's get into it. You wrestle for Imperial Pro Wrestling. Can you tell us about your relationship with that company?
Yes, I am the current Imperial Pro Wrestling Women's Champion. I think I've been wrestling for them maybe a little bit over a year, and I love working for them. They're one of my favorite companies to work for, so it's always a fun time whenever we're there, because it's always a great show.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but you are the longest reigning Imperial Pro Wrestling Women's Champion, no?
I don't know. I know I beat Riley Rocket for it. I don't know how long. I know she was champion for a while, but Kenzie Paige was their first women's champion, and I think she held it for a while too. So I would have to crunch the numbers because I'm really not sure. But I think Riley might be, because I feel like she's been champion forever. So I really don't know.
Well, that's a great segue. You actually competed for NWA, part of
I did.
the Crockett Cup weekend. You
yes.
teamed with Jada Stone against Pretty Empowered. Can you tell us about that experience?
It was super fun. Jada is one of my best friends. She was a bridesmaid at my wedding, so anytime I get to do something with her, it's so fun. We're usually beating each other up, but this was one of the few times we got to tag. And Ella Envy is somebody that's always been amazing to me in my career. I had one of my first matches with her in a tag team, and she was my tag partner, and I learned so much from her. And Riley's just always been, you know, one of the top women in Tennessee, so it was super cool to get in there with amazing women. And it was a great learning experience too, because in NWA they have Madusa, they have Jazz, they have Dr. Tom, they have so many amazing minds there. So it was just a phenomenal experience all around.
I love that you bring up Madusa and Jazz, because I've heard stories that some of the girls that compete for NWA don't exactly know that they were actually wrestlers.
Are you serious?
100%.
Oh my god. Who? Well, I guess you can't name drop, but that is crazy.
I don't know myself, but I really want to know. All I've heard is that somebody sat next to Jazz in catering, and they were like, "Hey, have you wrestled before?"
Oh my god, that is so embarrassing. That is so embarrassing.
So, obviously that was your first time with NWA. Is there anything else, you know, in the lineup for NWA?
I'm not sure. We do stuff with NWA JCP, but we've been out of town like every weekend traveling for different shows. So it's really just whenever the schedule lines up. I don't know. Hopefully soon. Who's to say?
Okay. Well, keeping up on NWA, Ricky Morton, you've actually been in the ring with him.
I did.
Can you tell us about sharing a ring with Ricky Morton?
It was such a surreal experience, because if you would have told little 5-year-old Clara that she was going to wrestle Ricky Morton one day, I would have literally slapped you in the face, because I would have thought I would be so stupid. It was so crazy. I texted my older brother, because we didn't know we were wrestling Ricky till we got to the show.
Oh, really?
And yeah, I thought they were all lying until Ricky Morton walked out, and I was like, oh, I guess like this is for real. And I remember texting my brothers after it, because my brothers don't watch a lot of wrestling anymore, but they know who the Hall of Famers are. So when I said I was wrestling Ricky Morton, even they didn't believe me. They were like, that makes no sense. But it was so cool just because it was Ricky freaking Morton and all the history that he has, and he's a Hall of Famer, and I never thought I'd wrestle a Hall of Famer. It was such a good learning experience, and it was just surreal.
Is that a moment you take in the moment, or is that kind of something that sets in like afterwards, like, wow, I did this?
It's something that sets in afterwards, because in the moment I'm so nervous, because like I don't want him to think that I'm a terrible wrestler, you know. I'm trying to like make sure that I'm good and collected and calm, and then after the match I'm always critical of myself and like, oh, what could I have done better, why did I do this instead of that, you know. I'm my own biggest critic. And then for me, I would say it's like a few weeks down the line where I'm like, hey, I wrestled Ricky Morton, that was pretty cool.
You have I'm assuming you've had interactions with Ricky before that. You got a Ricky?
Oh yeah.
You got a Ricky Morton story?
I think that I've got the best Ricky Morton story of all time.
Hell yeah.
This was earlier this year. This was at AML in North Carolina, and we have a wrestler named Logan Quindell, and he was just tying his boots up in the corner, you know, just minding his business. And Robert Gibson was also there. And Ricky, any chance he gets to mess with Robert, he will do it. And so Ricky goes up to Logan, and he shakes his hand, says, hey, whatever. And then he goes up to Robert. And then Robert comes along a few minutes later. and he says hey to Logan, and then he's like, how's your father doing? And Logan's like, I don't know, I haven't talked to him in how many years, because he, and then Robert's like, dang, that's crazy. And then he walked away, and then you just see Ricky in the corner giggling like a schoolgirl. Ricky Morton told Robert Gibson that Devon Dudley was Logan Clondell's father. And so Robert thought that Devon was a terrible father at the moment for not talking to his son. And I think it was like a few hours later, someone was like, Robert, that's not Devon's son.
All right, that's a good story. But you mentioned Madusa earlier. You actually shared a car with Madusa. What was that like?
That was also a surreal experience, because Madusa is an icon for women's wrestling, and she's a trailblazer, and every woman in the sport should be studying Madusa. And we were in the car for like an hour together, and I let her talk about wrestling if she wanted to talk about wrestling, because I don't ever want to annoy somebody with wrestling, because not everybody wants to talk about wrestling if they're in the business. And she was so attentive to me and my career and asking questions about myself. And it was so crazy, because I thought I was going to have to ask her questions about her career the whole time, but she was wanting to know about me, because I'm so young in my career, and she wanted to help me any way she could. And she gave me such amazing advice. And even now, that was a few months ago, but even now I still I'll find myself in a situation in wrestling, and I'm like, oh, Miss Madusa said to do this and that, and think differently. And she was just so kind to me when she didn't have to be. And that was the biggest thing I loved about her, was how kind and attentive she was.
Oh yeah. And that was a normal car you were in, not a monster truck, correct?
Oh no, I would never. I'm scared of heights.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Wasn't you in a ladder match?
I sure was. Yeah, that's right. I sure was. Yeah. I keep forgetting about that. I was in a ladder match.
So, is that something? Does your fear of heights come up then?
No, because in the moment, okay, I grew up watching Jeff Hardy. Jeff Hardy was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up, okay? So if someone said ladder match, and I said, hell yeah. And I put myself in the mindset of what Jeff Hardy would think, and he's not scared of heights. He can't be.
That is hilarious. Oh. All right. Now, can you tell us about you were actually backstage for Smackdown? What was that like?
That was really cool, actually. That's really cool. We do a lot of cool stuff in wrestling that we take for granted. That was a very great experience for me, because I got to just watching and observing an environment that you grew up wanting to be in is I had to keep pinching myself throughout the night. But I'm not sure how much I'm allowed to say or how much I can say, but it was just the greatest learning experience I could have ever had, I think.
It's kind of like a window into a world you want to be in, right?
Yeah, it's like you're walking around and you're like, oh, I'm gonna be here one day, but it's gonna be in a different circumstance, you know what I'm saying? And just observing and kind of watching and learning the vibes of everything, and just seeing how they do it in the biggest wrestling company in the world, you know?
Right. Did you actually get to do extra work, or you were just backstage?
I don't think they used any extras that night. I think we were all just hanging out.
Okay. That being said, how was the catering?
It was the greatest thing I've ever had in my life. It was delicious.
All right, but what are you having?
They have some really good salmon. The salmon is great. Their rice is really good too.
Okay. Now, can you tell us about the advantages and disadvantages of being in the same profession as your significant other?
Oh my goodness. I guess we'll do the advantages first. I think it's really fun because we have the same passion, so we get to like motivate each other. Like if one of us doesn't want to go to the gym, the other one will be like, come on, we gotta go. Like we're motivating each other because we have the same goals. Where if we're very rarely traveling long distances alone, but most of the time we're booked on the same shows, so we get to travel together, it's super cool to see the world with your best friend and your significant other. And then you also get to critique each other, but also compliment each other. And he sees things that like other like coaches and stuff won't see, because he knows me better than anybody else in this business,
Right.
The disadvantages I would say is that for me and my husband, there's not really a lot of jealousy because we're so completely different. So there's not a lot of stuff that he gets where I'm jealous of, and there's not a lot of stuff that I get where he's mad about. But especially in training, we do get very competitive with each other. Some would say that's a good thing, but we're both he grew up doing amateur wrestling and he fought in MMA, and I grew up competing in jujitsu and I wrestled in high school. So we're both very competitive. And when we have to chain wrestle, sometimes it gets a little too competitive with me and him. And then another disadvantage would be sometimes the critique, very rarely, will just strike a nerve just because it's your husband telling you did something wrong. Anybody else says the same thing, you're like, okay, but because it's your wife or your husband, you're like, shut up.
I get that.
Yeah.
I would imagine one of the disadvantages is when he screams his name at you.
Oh, yeah. See, that's what I love that, because he'll do that even at home for no reason. No reason at all.
Alright. Now, you were part of WrestleCade and
Yes.
Ladies Night Out.
Mm-hmm.
So, before we get to Ladies Night Out, let's talk about WrestleCade. Obviously one of the bigger wrestling events on the calendar. What was that experience like?
It's honestly my favorite time of the year because you get to see all these people that you grew up watching and all these people that you're currently watching, and they're all your peers at this point, because you're all in the same business, and it's one of those pinch me moments, and it's the most surreal and amazing weekend of the year, I think. You always learn so much with how people are and how the business is, and it's amazing, and it's a night of amazing wrestling. There's some phenomenal matches every single weekend there, and it's so good. Yeah, I'm so excited for it. We're planning for WrestleCade right now, actually. It comes by so fast every year.
Yeah, it's usually November, right?
Yeah, this one is going to be late November, early December.
Changing it up a little bit.
Yeah.
That being said, you were part of the Ladies Night Out event. You wrestled Janai Kai and JC Storm. Obviously
Yes.
Janai is one of the heaviest hitters out there today. So what was that experience like?
It hurt so bad. Everyone always told me and Janai was like one of their dream matches, and I'm glad that we got to work each other in a triple threat. And I think that was the second time I worked JC Storm, I want to say. And I always love working her, but I would love to wrestle Janai in a singles, because I feel like my jiu-jitsu and amateur wrestling against her striking would be amazing.
Okay. And obviously Ladies Night Out, an all-female event. And just taking a look at that card, it was like every like major talent on the independents right now.
Yeah.
So what did it kind of mean to you to be on that card? All female wrestling on on whole event, just women.
It's always such an honor to be involved in WrestleCade, and it's always an honor to be involved with Ladies Night Out because, like you said, it's a cutthroat industry, and there's a lot of phenomenal women's wrestlers, and to get a match on that stacked card is a blessing. And it's always, like I said, it's always a learning experience because you see these women that are doing things that you want to do, and they've already been to places that you dream of being, and just sitting and watching and learning, it's just always so great. And Sue Young was there, and she is an angel. I love her.
Oh, interesting. You wouldn't think that the undead bride would be an angel.
Yeah, well, she just looks scary, and I'm kind of some people would say I'm mean. So my version of being an angel, the bar is very low.
All right. Well, you mentioned your jujitsu background, obviously striking Janai Kai. I feel like that would translate very well in a match that you actually had at CFU, which is more of a UFC style of pro wrestling, I would like to say. You wrestled KZT and Eve Levine. What was that experience like?
It was really, I think KZT, I don't know, she's either a brown or a black belt in jiu-jitsu. I think. I have to look that up. But that was also really cool because when my husband found out I was getting to do a match with KZT, he kind of marked out. He was like, oh my gosh, we're going to have so much fun. So it was super cool to be around her. She was so nice. And seeing how she incorporated like her jiu-jitsu and her mat stuff like into her pro wrestling stuff was amazing. She was so great.
Is having matches like that something you'd like to explore more?
I was supposed to do more with CFU, but I live in North Carolina and they're all the way up in Jersey, so it's kind of a haul to get up there. I was supposed to do one last year, but I would love to do some more. I had a lot of fun. I thought it was a very unique experience.
Okay. Now, one other thing I noticed, is your wrestling gear. Do you prefer the cargo pants or the boxing shorts?
I honestly don't have a preference. For me, I do my gear based on what I'm most comfortable in because when I was training with Dr. Tom, he would always say that one of his biggest pet peeves in wrestling is when people like keep pulling at their gear, like it keeps falling, they keep pulling their pants up or something. They keep messing with their top or whatever. So whenever I think of my gear, I always think of something that is functional and I will not keep grabbing at it so Dr. Tom doesn't scream at me because that is terrible. So for me, style-wise, I honestly don't really have a preference. For me, it's really just about functionality.
Okay, I gotcha. Now, another match that you've been in, you wrestled Kamile with Caitlin Alexis, and you actually got the team with the legendary Angelina Love.
Yeah.
A lot to unpack there. First and foremost, what was it like being in the ring with Kamile? Obviously, NWA, former NWA Women's Champion.
I wanted a singles match with Kamile so bad, and I need somebody to go bring her back here and make it happen because oh my gosh, she hit me so hard and I loved it so much. She's big and strong and she's hard hitting and she's just a strong woman, and I love getting in the ring with strong women who love to be physical.
Hell yeah. And obviously, Angelina Love was your tag team partner. What was that like?
I texted my brother and I was like, guess who my tag partner is? Angelina Love, because they were in love with her when she was in TNA with the beautiful people. And I was in love with her too, because I thought she was so amazing. She does so little, but so much at the same time. She is so smart when it comes to wrestling and business and just the life in general. I could talk to her for hours, and we're so blessed at AML that her and Fodder come along pretty often. So I get to see her, if I'm lucky, like around once a month. And she is so amazing. And I think that she's so underrated. And people, if they're on a show with her and they're not picking her brain or just having a conversation with her, they need to, because she is phenomenal.
When do you find out about this match?
I found out, I think, like a little under a month before the show, and I kept checking like every day to make sure it was still happening, because I thought someone was playing a prank on me.
Do you prefer to know your matches a little bit more in advance, or like the Ricky Morton match, which was the day of?
I honestly don't really have a preference, because I've had a match one time where me and Jada were supposed to have just a regular match, and then we got to the show and they said, oh, it's a ladder match. And I said, okay, slay, I love that. And so sometimes I like a good surprise. Sometimes I don't really plan anything in advance. Sometimes I like the anticipation of being excited for a match. Sometimes I like to be excited, but I really don't plan anything in advance. It's really just about feeling, if I want to feel excitement for a month, or if I want to feel it for like 2 hours.
I gotcha. And that was actually in the match we're speaking about. It was actually in a famous arena, Dorton, right?
Yes.
What was it like wrestling in that venue in such a high-profile match?
It was also another very surreal moment, because I remember just like walking the halls, like backstage, just walking up and down, and there was a lot of names on that card. Like there was Kamile, Gangrel was there, which was super weird, and then Mr. Kennedy was there. So I would literally just walk down the halls and I'd see Mr. Kennedy, and then I'd see Gangrel, and then I'd see Kamile, and I'd see Angelina Love, and I'm like, where am I right now?
Alright, well, you mentioned Gangrel, which is pretty bizarre, which brings us to our next segment, Clara's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
When I was training for maybe like 3 weeks at this time. And I started training in Tennessee with Dr. Tom. And I was a little 19-year-old girl all by myself. And I don't like to party or go out or anything. So we literally had training from Monday through Friday. And then the weekends we got to do whatever we wanted. So every weekend I would find a wrestling show in Tennessee, and I would go help out, introduce myself, meet people. And there was a Halloween show, and Danhousen was on it.
Very nice, very evil.
Yes, we got there, and we were just watching the show. Everything was going fine. We set up and everything was going good. And then all of a sudden, somebody just like pulls me to the back really fast, and they're like, can you take Danhousen to the hospital in your car? And I was like, yeah, sure, I guess. And then he just hopped in my car. He was in my back seat with his broken leg, and Warhorse was in my passenger seat. And they were still all like in their wrestling gear. Danhousen still had all his face paint on, and we walked into the hospital, and everyone just turned and looked at us. And I wasn't embarrassed, but I wanted people to know that everything was okay, and that we're not whatever we looked like we're just normal people. And so we were sitting there, And then they took Danhousen to the back. Warhorse went with him. And then I look over, and Dirty Dango is just sitting there. And I'm like, what is my life right now? So then we just start conversing a little bit. And then Levi Everett is there. And it's just the craziest experience of my life. And that's also one of those things where I look back on and I'm like, I walked into a hospital with Danhousen with his full gimmick, and it was just very strange. And you would like in the middle of the night in the hospital, there's some psychotic people, and they thought we were the psychopaths.
It sounds like there was a better party in the hospital than what was going on.
It was so weird because right before us, Levi Everett and Mance Warner walked in because Mance also broke his leg, and it like they would see like Amish Levi Everett, and then they'd see Mance Warner, and then they'd see Danhousen, and then they see Warhorse, and they see Dirty Dango, and then they see little Clara just in the middle of everything. And I'm like, I promise I'm okay.
Yes, I'm fine. I'm here willingly. Yeah, I would definitely say that is a very bizarre adventure. Which is actually a great segue into my next question, and that is your love of Friday the 13th.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us about it.
I always just loved horror movies growing up. I would always just put it on in the background while I'm doing chores or something. And there's a band called Ice Nine Kills, and they do like albums every year around Halloween time, and they do their songs based around like horror movies. So they have one based off of It, they have one based off The Shining, one based off Friday the 13th, Freddy vs. Jason, like Michael Myers, everything. And it's just so cool. So if you like horror movies and you like kind of heavy metal music, I highly recommend Ice Nine Kills because they're really good.
I think I've heard of them before.
Mm-hmm. They're great.
What's your favorite Friday the 13th movie?
You know, I would have to say the original, just because I just love original movies because I just love the old school movies. Like I didn't watch the new Roadhouse, and I refused to, but I watched the original Roadhouse, and the vibes are just so much better than what the preview I saw of this Roadhouse.
Right.
I just love movies that are based in like the 90s and 80s, and I just like the vibes a lot better than current day movies.
I think the original Friday the 13th has really aged very well for the simple fact that, you know, it's very well established that Jason is the guy, it's Friday the 13th.
Yeah.
And it is, if you haven't seen Friday the 13th Part 1 and you're expecting Jason, well, Jason isn't the killer in Part 1. So
right.
It's definitely a twist that to this day can still get, you know, horror fans like, wow, it wasn't Jason.
Right.
Alright. Now, you are, speaking about your jujitsu background, you are actually a national jujitsu champion, correct?
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
Well, I grew up doing jujitsu, and it just started as like, so I'm Brazilian, and my mom was like, well, if you guys are Brazilian, you gotta do Brazilian jiu-jitsu because everyone in Brazil knows jiu-jitsu. So it started off as just like a hobby, just to like get the kids out of the house and like just go be active. And then I picked it up fairly quickly, and my jiu-jitsu coach just suggested competing. And I'm very competitive, but I'm a silent competitive, where like if I think that I can do something better than you, I will silently do it better than you. And once you see me do it better than you, then I'll say, buddy, I'm sorry, I'm just better. And so I just really enjoyed competing. And at the time, thankfully, there's a lot more women in the sport now. But at the time, there wasn't a lot of women. So I would have to either compete in the adult women's division, or I would have to compete against the teenage boys, or I would have to compete against teenage boys in like a higher weight class. And so it was fun because I got to challenge myself a lot. But it was also frustrating sometimes when like little 145-pound 16-year-old Clara would have to do jujitsu with a 300-pound 21-year-old man. And I'm like, tell me how this makes sense. Tell me how this is fair.
Yeah.
And then they would just crush me. And then my coach would be like, Clara, what went wrong? And I said, well, there was a big weight advantage for the other guy. Like, I'm so sorry. So that was a very frustrating part. And I still will get mad about it sometimes. And because when me and my husband, when we chain wrestle sometimes, he'll do the same thing that those guys did to me, where he'll just use his weight. And I'm like, now that doesn't prove anything to me.
It's, they're using their weight rather than their skill.
Yeah. Just because they're a whole foot taller than me and a whole 100 pounds heavier than me. I'm like, just because you move your weight around, that doesn't prove anything to me. Like, maybe, like, grab a hold or something, you know?
Wrist lock.
Yeah, like, take my back, take my arm, take my leg, like, do something, you know? Don't just pick me up and put me down and just lay there.
Right. What is your degree in jiu-jitsu?
I am a purple belt.
Purple belt. That's one away from black belt?
It's 2 away. So after purple is brown, and then it's black.
Okay. So, like I said, you know, you're a national champion. Was jiu-jitsu something that you felt like you could pursue professionally, or was it always, I'm doing this until I could get to wrestling?
I loved jiu-jitsu, and when I was doing jiu-jitsu and competing, I would get off school and go straight to the jiu-jitsu gym and just be there all day. And I was really passionate about it, and I loved it. But whenever I was at jiu-jitsu, I was thinking about pro wrestling. So that's when I like, my mom asked me the same question when I turned 18. She was like, why don't you just travel the world and compete in jiu-jitsu? Because I had friends that came from Brazil and wanted to take me with them, like, to go around the world and just compete and learn different cultures and stuff. And for me, I always told myself, if something's in my head and I can't get it out of my head, then there's a reason why it's in my head, and I need to go follow that dream. And every time I do anything else athletic, I'm always thinking about wrestling. But whenever I'm in a wrestling ring, I'm not thinking of anything else. So the first time I stepped foot in a wrestling ring and I was content and happy, that was when I knew this is what I was put here to do, and I need to just focus on wrestling.
If only you could have told yourself you were going to drive Danhousen to the hospital.
Right, yeah.
All right. I think it's time for the colossal question. Let's say that they're making a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
Oh my gosh. The first one would probably be oh my gosh, this is so hard. The first one would be The Westerner by Falling in Reverse.
Okay.
Then we might do All Falling in Reverse. Then it would be... Is this in order or no?
Not any particular order, no.
Okay. So we'll do The Westerner, Then we'll do Caught Like a Fly by Falling in Reverse. And then we'll do Just Like You by Falling in Reverse.
Okay, we're going to get Falling in Reverse for this movie, clearly.
Yes.
Alright, I dig it. Now that we have the soundtrack down, then we write the script, and then we go to casting. Who plays Clara? And you can't say yourself because you are legally obligated to make a Stan Lee-esque cameo.
Okay. I would want to put a wig on Keanu Reeves and have him play me.
Okay, so
because I think that makes sense because he is Lebanese and I am half Lebanese, so I think it's the only thing that makes sense in my head. And Keanu Reeves is one of my favorite actors, so I would like to respectfully ask Keanu Reeves to put on a wig and play Clara Carter in my film.
You say put a wig on, but I think he could actually grow his hair out long enough.
You're right. Yeah, he does have a beautiful head of hair.
He does. Alright, now that we have you casted, every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be 3 people significant to you and your story that would be in your movie, and who would play them?
My husband would have to be in it. Who's gonna play his big self? I don't know. Who does he look like? Oh, Brock Lesnar. We are gonna put Brock Lesnar in an acting class, and then he's gonna play my husband in this movie. And then just because when my husband first started, everyone called him Brock Lesnar just because they're 2 big amateur wrestlers. So Brock Lesnar, and then we will do Charlize Theron will play my mother.
Okay.
She will play my beautiful mother. And then they look nothing alike. I just thought of Charlize Theron. And then we'll do The Rock as my dad, because my dad looks like a mix of The Rock and Obama put together. That's what my dad looks like. So think of that in your head. That is my dad.
Okay. I never knew that I needed to see Keanu Reeves marry Brock Lesnar before, but now I'm into it.
Now you do.
Yep.
Now you do. That's right.
It sounds like a stellar cast, a blockbuster to say the least.
Mm-hmm.
You could pre-order the tickets now.
That's right. It's gonna be beautiful.
Hell yeah. Alright, on to a controversial subject. Pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
I think that is blasphemous. I've never had it, but I'm sure it is disgusting because on pizza, I just eat plain cheese pizza. I'll eat a supreme pizza, but you will never catch me with pineapple on my pizza because I think that is psychotic. I think pineapple is good, but it is way too acidic for me to be eating it on a regular basis. For me, 1 bite of pineapple, I'm done for the year. That's how it should be.
Okay, so you're very anti-pineapple.
Yes. If you can get it less acidic, then I'll be for it. But pineapple is too much for me.
Okay. What's your spirit Pokemon?
I did not. That's a question I asked my brothers. Because I did not watch Pokemon. They watched Pokemon, they watched Bakugan, they watched all this stuff. And you would think I would know about it, but I don't. I blocked it all out. I was in my own little world.
Okay, so no...
I should...
Yeah.
Pokemon, I'll say Pikachu, because I feel like he's the main character. Right? Am I right? He's the main character?
Yes.
That's right. So I am Pikachu.
Okay. Now, we love the late, great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Doug? T-H-U-G.
No, I do not. I feel like I should.
T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for Jill. 'Cause a Doug can't spell.
That's right.
Yes. We love the late great Tracy Smothers.
God
Trying to
bless
keep
him.
the memory alive on the show.
I love a good Tracy Smothers throat chop.
Hell yeah. Now, weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview, hopefully. Would you ever consider wrestling a Rock? Not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical Rock.
Why not? If Brian Pillman can wrestle a pencil, I can wrestle a Rock. I won't do it for free.
Alright. Well, just for context, there is a wrestler named Psycho Mike that indeed wrestled a Rock for over 15 minutes in a Toasted Man match. That's an Iron Man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
What?
Yes.
That's crazy. I'm gonna look that up.
I can send it to you.
Please do.
Yes. Alright. On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I see myself signed in Orlando, living my best life, going to the Performance Center every day with Shawn Michaels. That'd be so great. That's gonna be so good because Shawn Michaels was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up too. It was Jeff Hardy and Shawn Michaels. And in 5 years, in 5 years, I will definitely be at the Performance Center. If I'm still working and waking up every day at 4 in the morning, I'm gonna be very sad.
Okay. And what is a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what you are all about as a pro wrestler?
Oh my goodness. Well, I would say I did a tag match recently that I really enjoyed at Imperial. It was me and Ameera Roze versus Kenzie, Paige, and Kylie Alexa. Anytime I'm in the ring with Kenzie or Kylie or Ameera, I just feel like my authentic self. I don't know what it is about it, but I feel like I could conquer the world when I run in the ring with those women. Because Kenzie, I think, brings out the best in anybody she's in the ring with. And Kylie is just so fun to be around because she has so much energy. You have no choice but to match her energy. And Ameera, her vibes are just so good. She just makes you feel comfortable. Even if you just met her for the first time, you just feel comfy around her. So, yeah, that's what I would say. Imperial, I think it was like 2 Imperial shows ago. It was me and Ameera versus Kenzie and Kylie. It was so fun. I loved it so much. One of my favorite matches.
Can we find that on YouTube?
I think you can. It might be on Title Match. I know it is on Title Match Network. I don't know if it might be on the Title Match YouTube because, yeah, it might be. I think it is. I will look it up. I will look it up and I will link it on my Instagram so that everybody can see it.
Perfect. And send it to me as well, and I could put the link to it in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox. For anybody that hasn't seen it, wants to see it, wants to re-see it after this interview.
Perfect.
And since we are nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Oh god, I'm ready.
This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
Yes.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Shawn Michaels.
Worst wrestler.
Oh my god. Oh, I don't know if I should say it.
No,
There's a lot. There's a good amount.
Would you
I don't know who
Yeah.
the worst of all time is.
Well, if you don't want to get out the golden shovel, would you like the default answer?
Yes.
You have chosen Eva Marie.
Oh, I love that. She was terrible. She had no business being in there.
You're main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
I need to wrestle Rhea Ripley before she retires.
Hell yeah. If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
Shawn Michaels.
Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is
MJF.
we would have also accepted tastes great on toast.
Oh, I love that.
Squash, vegetable or fruit?
Vegetable.
It is indeed a fruit.
That is stupid. We need to protest that. I don't like that.
It has seeds, tomato logic. But you are a part of Squash Squad, which means a hell of a lot more. New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
Oh, I don't want to see no types of booty cheeks, so I would love if everybody covered up their butt. But if you want to free your cheeks, go ahead. I won't hate on it.
Okay. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
No, and I never will.
And that is the correct answer. And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much for coming on and doing this with me.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. And once again, where can we find all things Clara on social media?
At Clara Wrestling on everything. My Facebook is Clara Carter. If you're a fan, do not send me a friend request because I will not accept it. That is for family and for business only. But you can hit me up on Instagram. You can send me a DM. I still won't respond to it because I'm a married woman. But you can still follow me.
And people can DM you for merchandise, correct?
Yeah, you can DM me for merch, or if you want to send me money, go ahead. You know, that'd be great.
And you don't have to go looking for it. All of the links to all her social media will be in the description of the video below, both on YouTube and Castbox. Simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Buy a damn shirt.
That's right.
Of course, thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, but on YouTube and Castbox. It is sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us next Tuesday and Wednesday for new incredible interviews, and follow the show at Wrestling with E, both on X, Thread, and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, and so much more. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, when I say wrestling with, you say entertainment, okay?
Okay.
For our very special guest, Clara Carter, Kaliko Yacht, Scooter Dust, I'm James J, and this has been Wrestling with
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.